Peace, love, and empowerment, beautiful people. I pray that this video finds you well and that you are out here living your best life, achieving goals, and getting the job done. LJ the Peacemaker here, doing peaceful things as always. Need peace? I got some, and I'm willing to share. So today, let's talk about feelings and emotions. Now, feelings and emotions could take us on a wild ride, an emotional roller coaster. And it's important for us to understand that our emotions are part of our human makeup. They're part of who we are, and we're intended to experience them all. But experiencing something doesn't mean that we get stuck in it. So we were never intended to get stuck in a particular feeling, or for any particular feeling to become the driving force in our life. Life is all about balance, and it's so critical that we learn to manage our emotions and keep ourselves balanced. And it's like, how do we do that? Well, it only comes from really just getting in touch with your true self, who you really are, what you really think, how you really feel, and why you feel that way. Because our emotions are triggered by external factors. Something happens outside of us and it makes us feel a kind of way on the inside. And the things that we're experiencing on the inside are formed by our thoughts, our perception, and our perspective of that situation. It's about how we're looking at the situation. So, sometimes people do something and they're not even considering you as a factor in their equation, but yet it makes you feel a kind of way because you've taken it personally. And now I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. I just want to point out that, these feelings that we have are subjective. A lot of times people are not even thinking about us when they hurt us. They weren't, granted, they probably should have been. A lot of times they really should have thought twice about that. But a lot of times they're not even thinking about us. And we end up so hurt by it because we feel like they should have been thinking about us, or they should have taken us into account with what they were doing or how it would have impacted us. And the fact of the matter is that we're each responsible for ourselves and our own feelings. And granted, we do have to live with the repercussions of our actions, but other people they don't have to factor us into their equation. That's not their responsibility, and granted, in a marriage, in a family unit, in a relationship, the other person should be factoring you in. However, if they're not, then you shouldn't be in that relationship because clearly they're not prepared to do so. However, it really is not their responsibility to manage your emotions. That's your job. We gotta be in control of ourselves. And so, in the beginning of my journey, I was so distraught. I was so heartbroken. I had a real rough year in 2020, but so the culmination of the whole thing, the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was I was dating this guy, and I found out he was cheating on me. Meanwhile, I'll save this part later. So I found out he was cheating on me, and I was blindsided and devastated beyond measure. I was so heartbroken, so distraught, couldn't pick it back up, couldn't get it back together. I felt like, how could he do this to me? How could he do this to me? Why would he do this to me? And, placed myself in this position as the victim. And I had to recognize, or else it was like, you're going to live down there on the floor? Get up. And so throughout that process of really healing and really looking at the situation, understanding that nobody did nothing to you. You were an active party in this situation, in this experience. And so no one person should be enabled to rock your whole world like that. Like where you almost feel like you don't know how to go on. And granted, it happens, but it's for us to recognize that we are whole and we are complete. And when we begin to feel like, oh no, I don't know how to move forward without this person, that's when we have to examine ourselves and try to figure out what void were we using them to fill, because that's not their job. And the fact of the matter is that if we were using them to fill a void, then it was doomed from the beginning, because they can't do that. They can't do that. Only God can fill those voids, because you are whole and complete. And ultimately, there is no void. It's just a perceived missing component when really you are whole. So it's really about us going on this journey inward and finding those pieces that we feel like are missing, and allowing the love of God to fill us and to let us know that we are whole, we are complete, we are everything that we need. But so I was so devastated, so brokenhearted after this situation. And it's like I really had to look at it. And it was like, first of all, you were putting all of this into this person when you were not even meeting their needs. Like, what you thought? You know what I'm saying? You thought you could keep him off to the sideline and like with this clear barrier outside of like your real life, because that's how I felt. I had previous situations where like people were getting too close to my children, and I didn't like that, and it made me feel like I will never allow any weirdo too close to my children, and so with that, I kept this dude at bay. And that's the reality of it. As I was doing this, I didn't realize it then, but once the situation was over, I really had to look at myself and recognize that you are holding on to these past hurts and you're projecting them onto this new person. And that's part of why this didn't work, because nobody wants to feel like they're in a relationship and they're being kept at arm's length. You know what I mean? And then two, as a single mom, I'm used to doing everything alone and having to be on top of things and in charge of things, and not really having to answer to anyone. So with that, a lot of times it comes across as like I'm being secretive or keeping things from people, when that's never my intention. But after growing and evolving and really looking at myself, it's like, yo, you look sneaky. Meanwhile, I'm not sneaky. I just feel like certain stuff ain't none of your business. So I ain't gonna explain that to you for what, and excuse me. And that kind of movement gives people an ill feeling. That's not how a relationship works. However, all of those actions were based on my feelings, my emotions, past traumas, past situations that I had experienced that left this emotional imprint that I was still living out, because our emotions are felt on the inside. They leave these scars, and so they create this particular perspective from us, and we're looking out into the world from that perspective. Meanwhile, that time has passed. That situation is over. You're dealing with new people today, here and now, in the present moment, who have nothing to do with those old situations. And it's like we're still carrying it along. Now, our feelings about situations come from what we're ingesting, what we're feeding ourselves. We make these rules for ourselves, and these patterns that we want to follow, or we make these connections between things. Like, so if that happens, then it means this, or if that happens, then it means that. And when it happens to us, then we hold on to how we've defined it. Like, oh, when somebody looks at you sideways, it means they hate you. I mean, that's an extreme example. But when we make these distinctions in our mind, then we start living them out. So anytime somebody looks at me like that, I'm like, oh, that's because they hate me. People always hate me. And then it goes on and on down this rabbit hole of your own creation. And so the point is to understand that, being that our feelings are something that we're experiencing on the inside and they're going on within us, they're thoughts. They're thoughts that cause these physiological and physical responses. So as we know that the mind and the heart are what are controlling our lives, then we really gotta take ownership of our emotions and begin to manage them and learn to maneuver them, because our feelings are always valid. Our feelings should never be dismissed. We feel all sorts of ways, and we feel that way for a reason. But it's for us to investigate, sit down for a second, stop, and assess, like, yo, I'm feeling kind of anxious right now. Where's that coming from? And the thing is, I used to live in an anxious state. I didn't realize it because people thought I was peaceful. You know what I mean? I could sit still to some degree, but like in my mind, it never stopped. Gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta do that, gotta do that. Okay, wait, when I woke up, I gotta do that. You woke up late, now you're behind schedule. Next, what you gotta do? The list goes on and on. All right, but what about next Friday? And then 3 weeks after that, and 2 Thursdays after Sunday, after Monday afternoon. Like, what? And it used to go on and on and on and on. And so it took me, first, I had to even identify that. Like, wait a second. I don't never stop. Like, what's going on here? My mind does not stop. And then really get clear on the fact that that's not okay. That's not okay. I was going to say that's not normal, but honestly, it probably is normal, because normal by definition is what the majority of people do. So I'm sure that's what's plaguing most of us out here, But so through meditation, through peaceful practices, through prayer, through retraining of my mind, through the Post-it note method for renewing the mind, from various other techniques that I've shared with you in previous videos, I was able to get real clear on that's not peace. That's anxiety. That's not peace. I want peace. And beginning to really get clear on what peace looks like, identifying how it feels, and then incorporating that in my life. And so gradually, first you begin meditating and feeling, oh, this is what peace feels like. And then as you practice that consistently on a day-to-day basis, you begin to get very, very comfortable in that place and recognizing, okay, I can go to this place whenever I choose to, And then I've practiced it at this point to a degree where I live in that place. That's my normal now. Praise God. Praise God. Feels so good. But like now, being in that place, that doesn't mean that I never feel anxiety. Anxiety comes on me. Fear will come on me. Nervousness, all types of feelings, because again, we're intended to feel all these feelings. But now when those feelings come up, I can immediately, I used to not be able to snap. When, I was losing the ability to use my hands, and I used to not be able to snap. So now I'm not the greatest snapper, but I can snap a little bit. Well, this bracelet's making noise. Let me take it off. So I'm so proud of that. I can't even tell you. I do that on a daily basis to practice the utilization of my hands and my mobility. But so that's like a whole nother subject. But so now, being that I've practiced this peaceful state repetitively and consistently, now I live there. And now when other feelings that are not peace come upon me, I recognize, okay, I have to stop. I have to stop and I have to assess. And that's really the key to managing our feelings, because life is so busy, so hectic, so much hustle and bustle, and we feel like we can't stop. We don't got a minute to stop. Who assess what? And the thing is, when we start acting out from these haphazard feelings, the fear, the anxiety, when we act from those places, like begets like. So they're just going to create more of that. And acting from those places means we're acting from anxious thoughts, which are going to create anxious behaviors, and then it's going to create anxious results. And it's going to be this continuous cycle, which is not what we want. So I encourage you. Your feelings are valid. They all deserve some acknowledgement. However, you were never intended to be stuck in any of them. They're not a place for you to stay forever. Our feelings do fluctuate. You know, 1 minute you can be happy and the next minute sad. That doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. That just means that you need to sit down for a moment and perceive your surroundings and what is happening around you that is triggering those feelings. And as you recognize what is triggering them, then you can act from there. Decide, should I stay in this place or should I remove myself because it's making me feel this way? Or what is something that would make me feel better in this moment? How do I reconnect and get back to my happy place? And I mean, if you need help with that and you need to seek medical attention or you need to seek psychiatric care or therapy, that's all up to you. It's for you to assess the degree that you're at, because we all need help at various points. Honestly, we all need help all the time. There are certain things that maybe you don't need help with in the moment, but there will come a point where you need help. We consistently need help in various areas, and that's another means of really assessing ourselves. Being honest and acknowledging when we need help, asking for the help we need, because that is all about our feelings. When we feel overwhelmed, it means we need a little bit of help. And it's up to you to get what you need to ensure that your needs are met, because God is with you and God will lead you. But it's for you to first seek so that you can find the solutions that are available. So be strong and navigate your feelings efficiently and effectively. Recognize that how you feel matters. You are important. And when we don't feel good, it's up to us to get ourselves back to a happy, joyful, peaceful place. And we do that by being still, taking some time to assess our feelings, assess what's going on around us, look at our previous experiences and how those may be triggering us in this present moment, separate ourselves from the past and acknowledge, is this really connected to this present moment, or is something new happening in the moment that I'm perceiving as something old? But this only comes through us being still and acknowledging how we feel. So your feelings are valid. You be sure to check in with you, because that's the only way to regulate yourself. And self-regulation is what it's all about, because nobody else can do it for you. So go forward, be strong, be brave, be bold, and be in tune with yourself. I pray that this blesses you. LJ the Peacemaker, eradicating poverty one thought at a time. And remember, if you have a bucket and you put a drop in it every day, your bucket will inevitably overflow. So you be sure to put those drops in that bucket, because your overflow is guaranteed. I thank you so much for your time. I love you, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.